Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to the new campaign trail for the month of May Cuomo? Mario Govern. I can't beat May Govern. I'm not even going to try. What are you going to do? Anyway, last couple weeks we had our first theme month following former senator and 1972 Democratic candidate for president George McGovern. We had a couple different spins with him trying to get him to win his various elections, which we ended up doing ultimately. Last one was All the Way, where after failing to secure the our bid for renomination as Lyndon Johnson hopped in as Mr. McGovern, and we happened to expose the horrible, reprehensible truth about Richard Nixon. And obviously, the worst thing about him, he was an ass muncher. I assume it was his blood pressure medication got him fucked up. It might have been just a joke. Probably could have got a note from his doctor and fix everything there. But instead, he crashed out and led to a glorious victory for the McGovern campaign. Now that we are here together, though, I had a mod pop up, or I saw a mod dropped. A sequel to a mod that I played a fair bit ago. Some might remember 1992 Lion, following the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. Well, the sequel is finally dropped after however long, I don't even recall necessarily. And I'm too lazy to look it up right now. And I figured, I wanted something a little bit more low-key. I've been busy with my new job, still on my house hunt, run to lunch at least. And I figured, let's do something nice, something low-key, and try to win in the biggest landslide since 1984. So, here we go. The 1996 presidential election stands at a critical juncture in American history as President Mario Cuomo seeks to lead the nation to the new millennium. So we have three different candidates we can play this time around versus the normal one, which is very, very interesting. I might go ahead and hop into another campaign. How about this? If I get 11 likes on this video, pushing a little bit, I'll hop in and play as one of these other guys, either Governor Weld or Pat Buchanan. Probably Pat Buchanan, because he sounds the most interesting out of the three. Sorry, Bill. But anyway, the 1996 presidential election stands at a critical juncture in American history as President Mario Cuomo seeks to lead the nation into the new millennium. President Cuomo starts with a lead due to the split in the GOP. He must balance keeping his base energized while holding on to moderates, many of whom are open to voting for Weld. Governor Weld starts out with a mountain to climb. He must hold as many moderates as possible, also bringing dissatisfied conservatives back into the fold. Meanwhile, Mr. Buchanan has no realistic path to victory, but derailing Weld's campaign may finally kill the Rockefeller Republicans and ensure his place in history as a conservative hero. Might just be worth a shot. Let's give it a gander. Shout out to the mod maker. I think there's a bit of a team. One of these guys commented on, I forget if that was Alex or who that was exactly. If you're watching this, hello. I hope you enjoy. I've had fun with the mod. And, let's give this a gander. Mario Cuomo is the 42nd president of the United States, elected 4 years ago in a landslide. He first entered office with a strong mandate and Democratic control of both houses, which were eager to move his agenda. His first term delivered notable wins. The renegotiation and passage of NAFTA proved popular in the Midwest, helping reclaim blue-collar voters. The 1993 National Health Care Reform Act, or Cuomo Care, required employers to provide health insurance and create a government option for those without coverage. Hailed as the most significant health care law in nearly 30 years, it drew early approval among Democrats and fierce Republican claims that it is socialism. Despite these successes, Cuomo faces mounting challenges. Conservatives and business groups are working to undercut him. Moderates are uneasy about headlines on pork barrel spending, a growing deficit, and what they see as a detached leadership style. Persistent stories about his close-knit family have have fed allegations of nepotism, sometimes tinged with ethnic insinuations. Meanwhile, liberals wanted to go further, pressing for single-payer healthcare and expanded rights for women and LGBTQ plus Americans. Will that term be around right now? I think it would. That seems a little bit too modern. A pull. I don't think trans visibility was big in the 90s. I think the big... Wasn't it gay? I don't know. Just me nitpicking. If the president can manage these cross pressures and keep his coalition intact, the country could enter the 21st century with a renewed purpose. His ability to reassure moderates while advancing bold, practical reforms will be decisive. Do that, and he could win a sweeping victory reminiscent of Reagan or Roosevelt, cementing legacy as a transformative liberal president. Liberal and big bold. Well, who else to have but the woman, the myth, the woe guest star on King of the Hill, Ann Richards. Ann Richards is the sitting vice president of the United States and a former governor of Texas. Her Texas charm and moderate appeal has been central to the ticket. Most pundits agree that Texas would have been out of reach without her. Though her selection 4 years ago came late, once elected there was little doubt she would stay on given the partnership you have forged. She is also the first female vice president in an era of rising social conservatism. Her presence remains a bold choice. As before, Richards will be critical to holding Texas and for competing across the South, where Buchanan and Weld are expected to start with an edge. She took heat in '92 for limited foreign policy experience. Some moderates may still care, but after 4 years, it is less of an issue. Overall, she remains a clear asset to the ticket. Well, let's give this a gander, huh? Let's start off the map. Let's look at the issues we got. We have economy, we have healthcare, social issues, foreign policy, and crime/domestic security. Let's try to sort this out. February 26th, 1993. A little over a month into your presidency, a group of terrorists led by Ramzi Youssef have detonated a bomb under the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Thankfully, the towers were not significantly damaged, but 6 people were killed and over 1,000 injured. As the nation looks to its new president for words of comfort, what will you say? Well, this is my home state. These are ordinary people going to work. People whom I swore to protect as governor of New York and as president of the United States. We will not stop until the terrorists who committed this horrific attack are held accountable to the fullest extent. This accent's a bit more Boston than it is New York, but I'm going to go with it. Many deeply sympathize with the pain you must feel over an attack against your own home state. Some moderates reward you might go soft and are glad to hear you plan to hunt down the terrorists. March 19th, 1993, Associate Justice Byron White, after a career spanning over 3 decades, has announced his retirement from the Supreme Court. There's great speculation about who might replace him, but ultimately the decision is yours. Who will you nominate? There's a remarkable judge on the D.C. Circuit Court who I think deserves the nomination. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has an inspiring life story, and is just the kind of even-keeled moderate we need in our highest court. You continue to stand by your commitment to elevate women to positions traditionally denied them. Miss Ginsburg was confirmed without controversy by the Senate, and is now only the second ever female justice, much to the delight of women across the nation. Beautiful. So, this map looks a little rough for us, so you might be thinking you might want to go somewhere like Georgia or Florida, perhaps. Maybe we want to push it one of the Carolinas. Nope, we're heading straight to Arizona. I just need you all to trust the process here. For the past year, relations between North Korea and the United States have stood on knife's edge since North Koreans announced they were leaving the NPT treaty. With fears of nuclear war on the rise, what are you going to do? Well, meeting with Kim Il-sung myself will just give his legitimacy, but there's anyone who can talk him down, it's Jimmy Carter. The Camp David Accords are one of his greatest achievements. Let's get Jimmy on the phone. Jimmy Carter is more than happy to reach out to the North Korean leader, and sure enough, he manages to work out an agreement which brings an end to the crisis. He's going to get a lot more of the public adulation, but you'll still benefit in the polls. Oh, there we go. Not by much, but I'll take your word on the benefiting. October 1994. The polls aren't looking good for us in the 94 midterms, since passing Cuomo Care earlier this year, which is a landmark 1993 healthcare law requiring employer coverage and creating a government option. Conservative anger towards you has reached an all-time high. It goes without saying that Newt Gingrich, the sharp-tongued, hard-right Georgia Republican leading the House GOP, becoming Speaker would be disastrous for our agenda going forward. Is there anything you want to say or do to rally Democrats and save Congress? This so-called contract with America is nothing more than same old Gingrich bluster. Where was he when we were passing the most historic healthcare bill since LBJ? Where was he when I was fighting for fair trade deals for our workers? Where was he, my fellow Americans? The awards light a fire under the ass of once complacent Democratic Party. Buttons, flyers, and posters asking where was he next to Gingrich's mug quickly make the rounds. The GOP makes gains all across the country, but thankfully, it's not enough to take control. Oh, beautiful. All right, next we're going to Alaska. Again, I just need you all to trust the process here. November 9th, 1994. Democrats have narrowly held on to our congressional majorities. In spite of this, many pundits take the significant GOP gains as an indictment of your liberal ideology, having plans to moderate your policies going forward. No. Let me tell you why. This was Gingrich's year. This was him at his peak, and he still lost. After 2 more years of our policies bearing fruit in spite of Republicans' attempts to block them, the American people will realize that Gingrichism is all talk and no substance. This is certainly a departure from the usual speech given by a president on the business end of a midterm setback. And your fighting spirit is carried on by your supporters. Some moderates, meanwhile, thought you sounded well-intentioned, but stubborn and naive. April 19th, 1995. Mr. President, I'm sorry to inform you that a terrorist attack has occurred in Oklahoma City. While the investigation is still ongoing, it appears that a moving van parked in front of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building was carrying a bomb, which went off minutes later, killing and injuring hundreds of people. These innocent souls were taken far too soon, and I want to offer my deepest condolences to the families of the victims. In this dark hour, I want them to know that the government is fully committed to tracking down and punishing whoever is responsible for this attack. Your speech manages to both condemn the terrorists and offer condolences to the families. Americans are frightened and confused, but you provide a steady hand through the storm. A few weeks later, Timothy McVeigh is arrested for the bombing. Well, let's head over to... Let's see, we're buying 13 there. And that's, what, 18, Alaska. With the holidays approaching, campaign season about to kick in high gear, you sit down for a closely watched interview with Barbara Walters on ABC's 2020. The lights are warm, the questions are gentle but pointed, and Barbara asks you, what do you want the average voter to keep in mind when he or she goes to the polls next year? One of my main talking points in '92 was the economic recession that resulted from the folly of Reaganomics. While we're always looking for areas of improvement, I think anyone can see that America is a thriving nation now as we cross into the latter half of the 1990s. Recession was a nightmare for Bush and Reaganomics, and voters haven't forgotten. It's also not lost on people that we've seen an upturn in the past couple of years. It's a message that many people can get behind. Beautiful. Well, your wife Matilda has some important news for you. Stepping in as campaign papers sit scattered across FDR's old desk. In a surprising turn of events, Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld has secured enough delegates to clinch the Republican nomination. What are your thoughts? Well, I gotta congratulate Governor Weld on winning the nomination, of course. He's a good man, regardless of our policy differences. I look forward to a healthy and vigorous debate. An expected but still gracious response, Bill Weld is an interesting opponent because he has a unique appeal to moderates, independents, and even some Democrats. Furthermore, don't be surprised to see a conservative third-party run announced soon. Well, we're only 12 points behind in Arizona versus... It's about 8 points. No, that's way more. Hold on. That's 18 in Arizona now. Well, to Arizona we go. The running vetting process is normally anything but exciting, but that changed suddenly today when a major scandal was exposed involving Senator Phil Graham's staffers blatantly attempting to offer bribes to Bill Weld's campaign in exchange for Graham being chosen as his running mate. Graham is now being pushed to resign his Senate seat. She's how in the... You know what? Never mind. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the show. It's an absolute shit show, sir, and it's going to give you some much-needed help in Texas. For what it's worth, Graham is not stepping down. Hopefully, Victor Morales can flip that scene and increase our Senate majority. We can hope, huh? Anyway, the DNC is rapidly approaching, and the party wants to clear signal from Chicago. You have an important decision to make. Who's going to deliver the keynote address at the convention? Well, let's have Joe Biden deliver the speech. He's a leading voice in foreign affairs, and with terrorism on the rise, we need a voice of reason to clarify that we are committed to protecting our citizens. Joe Biden is expected to deliver a strong speech, and he managed to stay relatively gap-free. With his decades of experience in foreign affairs, this should help you with moderates who are concerned about crime and terrorism. Well, there we go. So we've got 15 in Arizona. And 12 in Alaska. Let's do Alaska. It's the final day of the DNC. Delegates dance to the Macarena in the aisles. And the mood is excited and hopeful after months of bitter Republican infighting. As you walk up to the stage of United Center in Chicago to raucous cheers. What will be the theme of Cuomo 96? Stability. I want to talk about how my policies have brought us out of the Bush-Reagan recession of the early 1990s and ushered in an era of peace and prosperity. Compare that to the chaos in the GOP. The choice is clear. You're handling the economy with solid approval ratings, and it's not lost on people that while Democrats are mostly united, Republicans are clearly divided between their conservative and moderate wings. Well, I've decided to stick with your Vice President Ann Richards, former governor of Texas. Not that anyone's expecting otherwise, but would you like to make any comments on this? Well, how are we doing generally? We got the lead right now, which is nice. You know, the letters Vice President Richards has gotten from young women across the nation thanking her for having the courage to stand up for them is a true inspiration. I wouldn't dream of running this campaign without her. Women love Ann Richards, and she's becoming to aspiring female politicians what Barbara Walters is to aspiring journalists. Keeping Ann aboard can only energize this part of your base. Well, there we go. Let's head up. Let's head up to Arizona. This shouldn't come as much as a surprise, but with you and Weld representing the two major parties, Pat Buchanan has seized control of the Reform Party and announced a conservative third-party run. Do you have any comments to make on his candidacy? I don't really have anything to say about Pat Buchanan, to be completely honest. He's Weld's problem, not mine, and I've got enough work to do. While he remains silent, Buchanan and Weld are trading blows through ads. Weld calling Buchanan an extremist reactionary, Buchanan calling Weld a cross-dressing Republican. Hopefully this split helps you in the long run. Well, let's hope, huh? Well, we're ahead tremendously right now in a lot of states. We're only 3 points behind in Alabama with a split ticket. How are we doing here? We're still... Oh, wait, it's the wrong one. About 7 points behind Virginia, but we can catch up. We're even catching up in the Dakotas. 9 points there. Oklahoma, we're about 11 off, but we're ahead of Buchanan. Getting there in Montana as well. As the campaign gets underway, many people want to know what exactly you're going to do about the rising budget deficit. Do you have any plans for a balanced budget? Well, my original tax plan, before Republicans in Congress watered it down, would have ensured that the billionaire class in America finally paid their fair share, thus lowering my deficit. I will redouble my efforts to make the American tax system one that is fair for everyone. Your supporters were disappointed when congressional Republicans weakened your tax bill and are ecstatic to hear that you haven't given up. Proposing taxes as a solution is tricky business, though. Proceed cautiously, sir. 14 in Arizona, 11 in Alaska, still in third. That seems a little low for Alaska's population, 250. That doesn't seem right. I mean, and I know it's not the total population, but actually eligible voters, that's probably more right. But anyway, let's head to Arizona. The 1990s have seen a technological boom with the rise of the internet and the increasing ubiquity of computers. Options on this are all over the map, and many voters want to know where you stand. My staff are suggesting that I create a website for my campaign. I'm not going to pretend to understand all the details, but I trust them. Let's do it. Your team gets to work, and on the day you announce a website's creation, Cuomo Richards 96 gets millions of hits from across the country. This is definitely going to get the under 30s engaged. Now we're doing Fort. Nice. Very nice. In 92, some Republicans infamously accused you of being a member of the mafia. Now, they're raising hell about Andrew being your unofficial chief of staff and Matilda being unusually powerful for a first lady. How will you answer these charges of nepotism? This is the exact kind of bigotry I've spoken out against all my life. Just because I'm an Italian with a large, close-knit family doesn't mean I'm in the mob. I think we need to be focusing less on these racist stereotypes and more on real campaign issues. Your response particularly strikes a chord with your ethnic supporters who know how it feels to be stereotyped. Some moderates are also won over by strong denial, while others remain unconvinced, but some people just can't be reasoned with. 12 points, 9 points. We'll do Arizona. Bill Weld has chosen Senator John McCain of Arizona as his running mate. McCain has a reputation as a politician willing to buck the party line. He's got his own nickname. He's even got his own nickname, rather, the Maverick. Would you like to make any attacks on him in this campaign? Well, we'll mix in some ads bringing up the Keating 5 scandal and reminding voters of his support for Reaganomics season as recession fell upon us, but moderates like him and he's a war hero. Let's not go too far. This is probably your best avenue for attacking a popular senator like McCain. None of these issues are going to kneecap him the way Quayle's gaffes did in 88 and 92, but creating some cracks in his Maverick persona should give us a small boost. Well, there we go. It's pulling us ahead. We're almost ahead in Alabama. We're ahead in Mississippi. We're getting there in Indiana, Montana, and South Dakota as well. Almost there in Nevada as well. It looks close in Alaska, but that's because it's between Buchanan and Weld right now. But stand back and stand by. I think we got this. Let's talk about the National Healthcare Reforms Act, more commonly known as the NHRA or Cuomo Care. The act created a government-run program that competes with private insurers while also creating stricter regulations to protect consumers. What are your thoughts? The NHI ensures that every American has a choice to either remain on their private plan or enroll in a low-cost government plan, protects them from predatory insurance companies, and encourages all insurers to drop prices. On balance, I believe we have achieved the greatest healthcare reform since LBJ and Medicare. It's a no-brainer to stand by the signature policy achievement of your first term. The NHRA is polling well amongst a majority of Americans, and as long as you can fend off the lies being spread by conservatives, it will help you win in November. Well, there we go. Let's go to Arizona. Your wife and vice president are outspoken advocates of education reform, and many teachers unions have been calling for the government to provide aid to poor communities which have severe funding issues. What plans do you have to address education, if any? I will announce the creation of a task force led by Matilda to build a comprehensive education policy for our second term. She's a champion for poor and at-risk kids as First Lady in New York, and knows she can work her magic again on a national scale. The task force has received positive approval ratings early on, and Matilda is the perfect spokesperson for it. Hopefully this will help inner-city kids and blunt the expected GOP fear-mongering about widespread teen drug use. Oh, how are we doing? 441 to 97. Oh, dear Lord. we flipped over Alabama. We're almost ahead in Virginia now, too. We're even getting there in Indiana. Whew. With Democrats controlling Congress and even Bill Weld being known as a pro-choice candidate, many on the left are saying this is the time to pass legislation codifying Roe v. Wade. Will we act on this? Well, I don't believe that's necessary. We already have a Supreme Court ruling, and the court only overturns its own precedents in extraordinary circumstances. Given this fact, the right to choose is as enshrined as it possibly could be. Sure, yeah. Why not? Your defense of the Supreme Court as the impartial arbiters of law pleases moderates, but many progressives have grown increasingly wary given the highly publicized confirmation hearings of Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas. Well, let's see how they like that in Alaska. He made headlines by negotiating NAFTA to ensure stronger protections for American laborers. Some moderates feel you went too far, with some on the left saying you didn't go far enough. How will you respond to this? Well, I will show progressives that I fought for NAFTA that will put our workers first. I will not take protectionist measures off the table if I feel we're being taken for a ride. Your words help mend fences with the left and should shore up your support in the Midwest. This will not reassure moderates at all, considering many of them support free trade. Well, I'm not too worried about the moderates. More worried about the Buchananites. Just gotta peel them away the best I can. Strange crossover, I know, but trust the plan. Bill Weld has made his moderate stance as a key part of his campaign, labeling you and Buchanan as holding to the extremes. Is there anything you would like to say or do in response? Well, let's get some ads out there tying Weld to Gingrich. Everything Weld does will require the Gingrich stamp of approval. It's going to mean a return to the ineffective and harmful conservative policies that have failed us in the past. These ads were a brilliant idea. Weld is popular among centrists, while Gingrich decidedly isn't. By tying Weld to that millstone, you've significantly weakened his hopes of making inroads with moderates. We're getting there. Arizona, here we go. A recent case in Hawaii determined that same-sex marriage is legal under the state constitution. Fueled by popular backlash, a coalition of conservative Republicans and Democrats has pushed for a bill called the Defense of Marriage Act. How will you handle the situation? Well, I understand people's concerns, but there's nothing wrong with our current system, and I am extremely hesitant to sign something so invasive to the freedoms of the American people. Giving a libertarian response here is an interesting approach. You and Weld give similar answers, and ultimately, public opinion was never quite strong enough to force DOMA through Congress. There we go. But Buchanan is ahead, I'm guessing, in Alabama. Yeah, No, not Alabama. Where does he have where's he getting the EVs? 9? Must be Alabama, though. Anyway. A shocking turn of events, Buchanan has cleared the polling threshold for the first debate. Now, as the three of you stand on the stage under the hot studio lights, what strategy will you adopt for the evening? Well, I will talk about my own policy achievements and goals rather than simply hurling attacks on my opponents. The American people deserve to hear what their leaders have actually done, not just sound bites for the evening news. Weld and Buchanan both criticize your agenda, but would often devolve into attacking each other, and in the end, you were the only one who could walk the walk on policy. Opponents would later agree you won the debate. Look at that. 6 points away. And then 8 points away. Let's do let's do Alaska, actually. Later in the debates, Buchanan was asked by moderator Jim Lehrer whether he would disavow the endorsement of David Duke, former Grand Wizard of the KKK. Do you want to hear how he responded? Sure, why not? Let's fucking hear it. Need to check to make sure this is good. I believe it is this one. Buchanan made a half-hearted attempt to distance himself from Duke. He'll lose some support, but it seems he did enough to avoid totally self-destructing. Ugly, but survivable. Well, that keeps Buchanan in the equation. If you don't do that, Buchanan shoots way the hell up. Or Weld shoots way the hell up over Buchanan. Because he doesn't really... he stands by David Duke, which is a hell of a choice. We have Arizona and Alaska. We now have the lead over Buchanan and Alaska, so we have 6 points there, about 8 points in Arizona. We're going to see what we can do in the meanwhile. For the debate in the rearview mirror, it's time to get back on the trail before the headlines settle. What theme will you focus on in your next rally? Well, I'm the candidate of a working class. Let's talk about my negotiation of NAFTA. We ensure that our laborers will get a fair shake in this deal, where the Republicans were ready to sail them out. Looks like blue-collar workers will be backing the Democratic Party in large numbers once again in 1996, and your work with NAFTA has played a large role in that. Well, let's go to 7, 8. Let's do Alaska. Newt Gingrich has criticized the NHRA's using the illusion of choice to push socialized medicine on America. How will you respond? Well, in case Gingrich has forgotten, and despite his best efforts, this plan was approved by a bipartisan vote. Let's run an ad highlighting the Republicans who voted for the NHRA, contrasting this with Gingrich's statement. The raw footage of senators like William Cohen, Arlen Specter, Jim Jeffords, John Chafee, and Mark Hatfield voting to approve the NHRA sends a strong message. Most Americans are pleased that their government worked together on healthcare reform. There we go. We're pulling ahead. Almost just over the hump in Virginia. Need to get there in Indiana. Getting there in Colorado. And we are there in South Dakota and Montana. Look at that. With several competitive House and Senate seats at risk, Southern Democrats are practically begging you to tone down the liberal rhetoric, at least give them something to work with. What will you do? Well, we have an ace up our sleeves. Vice President Richards. Alaska holds several rallies in southern states, playing up our universally popular accomplishments. Once these folks see which party's been looking out for them, they'll come around. The day Ann Richards can no longer charm Southern voters into sticking with Democrats is the day the South is truly lost. Judging by the reactions of the crowds at her rallies, that day has not yet come. Get ready for a nice polling bump. 5, 6, 5. I'm going to drop a visit into Oklahoma, just in case. Anyway, Pat Buchanan has made illegal immigration a central plank in his campaign, decrying the open borders of the U.S. and calling for a border fence to be put up. What are your thoughts on immigration? Well, Buchanan not only finds himself, once again, standing far outside the mainstream, even makes President Reagan, who granted amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants in 1986, look downright liberal. Nobody should take what he says seriously. The zinger really puts into perspective how radical Buchanan's beliefs are without risking losing any support for your own views. This is sure to give you a boost amongst moderates. Yeah. Only 3 points in Alaska. 4 points in Oklahoma. I've been trying to figure out what the... I think it's theoretically winnable to get all these states and Kansas with good enough RNG, but I'm just going to focus on these 3 down there. Buchanan has failed to qualify for the second debate, much to the relief of most people. Early morning, Jim Lehrer asks you this question. Mr. President, given the rise of terrorist activity in recent years, should more be done to combat terrorism, especially in the Middle East? Absolutely, Mr. Lehrer. Anyone who attacks our country must be made to answer for it. The horrible images from the World Trade Center Oklahoma City bombings are forever etched in my memory, but I promise America will not be intimidated. With just the right response of emotion, empathy, and conviction, your response was judged to be a slam dunk by the post-debate panel, and pretty much shut down any hope Weld had of getting the upper hand on the issue. 6 points, 4 points, 3 points. Arizona, here we go. Later in the evening, Lehrer asks Weld about conservatives calling for a total repeal of the NHRA, or Cuomo Care, which is a term you've grown more and more fond of. Weld appears nervous as he says he's open to making changes, but remains committed to upholding the law and opposes a total repeal. How will he respond? Governor Weld, you say you'll uphold the law, but what happens when Newt Gingrich presents a bill on your desk to overturn the law? What will you do then? The camera focuses on Weld for what seems like an eternity. Finally, he says that he can't give a definitive answer until he has all the facts. Governor, if that is your answer, the American people have all the facts they need. The post-debate panel compares this moment to your No Jack County in '88. There we go. 2 points in Oklahoma, 3 points in Arizona, 4 points in Alaska. Governor Weld is coming under renewed fire from conservatives for his socially liberal positions as governor of Massachusetts, where he supported abortion and gay rights. Do you have any comment on this? Well, I think this just goes to show the deep division in the Republican Party. They can't even agree on their own agenda, so how do we know what a Weld presidency would really look like? Attacking the GOP as a whole for the divide between their two main factions is rarely a bad idea. Moderates may not agree with everything you stand for, but they at least know what you stand for, and polls show them starting to break your way. Oh, look at that. Alaska, here we come. One part of Gingrich's platform that has gained some traction in recent years, especially among angry voters, is term limits. Should members of Congress be term limited? Well, absolutely not. We already have a term limit. It's called voting. Senator Congressman is doing a good job. Why shouldn't he be reelected? This is still the mainstream view, despite efforts from term limit reformers, and Weld agrees. Most Americans are content with this answer, while populists who have this as their top issue will probably stay home or go for Buchanan. The gap is increasing a little bit in these states. The Yankees are playing against the Braves in the 1996 World Series. You, a lifetime baseball fan and former minor league prospect, been invited to throw the ceremonial first pitch at Yankee Stadium in Game 1. What do you want to do? Is that even a question? Cancel my campaign events for the day. Gotta be there to give my support to the boys. New York deserves that much. You smile as you strolled out to the mound to massive cheers from the crowd and tossed out the first pitch. This turned out to be the highlight of the evening as the Yanks were routed in the game. Thankfully, they did come back to win the series. You're also burnishing your working guy image for the millions turning it in. Look at that. I trust we can pull it around in Arizona. I'm going to do Alaska. Been able to win Arizona every time, not so much Alaska. As the campaign nears its conclusion, your team wants to know how you plan to approach advertising the home stretch. Will you make any attacks, try to reach out to the undecideds, or run a positive campaign? Let's keep it positive. I'm the incumbent. People don't want to hear more negativity. I want ads highlighting our accomplishments, promising to continue to build on the prosperity of the 1990s as we approach the dawn of a new millennium. That's exactly what your base and even many moderates want to hear. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are challenges yet to be overcome, but right now Americans want to feel optimistic about the new century. They want to believe that our prosperity can last. You provided that hope. There we go. Fuck, right there. We're right fucking there. It's finally over, Mr. President. It's been a long, long road to get here, and your voice is nearly gone, but we've reached the end. Where will you wrap up your campaign? Well, Texas is a close state, and I know we can win it again. Is it that close? No, it's fucking not. But I think this boosts us in Oklahoma. First, I'll sweep through the Upper South, down through Arkansas and Louisiana, wrapping up a rally in Austin alongside Ann. This time, you notice that the crowd seemed bigger in some of these southern states. None bigger than the one in Austin as you and Ann fired up the crowd on the eve of the election. There's something in the air, a sense of genuine belief. Excuse me. Election night, here we go. We have our eyes on the two A's, Arizona and Alaska. Come on, big money. First state in, Kentucky, we've won. Second state in, Vermont, we've won. We've won West Virginia by massive amounts. Holy shit. We've got Ohio, we've got Georgia, we've got Indiana, Illinois, South Carolina. Pretty much all of New England we've gotten. Most of the western seaboard. We won with New York being called. We've won all the original 13 colonies. We've won Alabama. Roll Tide. Texas, we got. New Mexico, we got. Weld finally gets a state with Wyoming. Gets the 5 in Nebraska, though we'd probably get 2 of those realistically. We got South Dakota. Weld has Utah. The Mormons love him. But the West Coast is coming in. Kansas is coming for him. We got Nevada. We got Montana. We got South Dakota. No Oklahoma. No Arizona either. Shit. I've gotten those in all my other test games, I swear. But we got North Dakota. It's all gonna... Nah, well... 496 to 42. I'm a little disappointed. I guess that's just the recording luck. You just don't get the states you're going for. Hypothetically, you can win all 3 of these. I've done at least Oklahoma and Arizona. But hey, you know, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna cry a little bit. All right. It's still a glorious day. We shouldn't be too down on ourselves. Good evening. If current trends hold, this will be a triumphant night for President Mario Cuomo. You knew when Tom Brokaw said this at the beginning of NBC's election broadcast that something big was happening. Sure enough, as more states came in, the map began to mirror your landslide victory of 1992. You smiled with tears in your eyes and hugged Matilda and your children. If only your father could be here, you think. If only he could see you now. It's not just a vindication of the ideals you stood for. It's a vindication of you, the boy who worked at his parents' grocery store in Queens, idolized FDR, and dreamed of someday making a difference in the world, and the man who is now the heir to the New Deal legacy. Thanks to your incredible campaign, you've become the first Democrat to be reelected since your hero did it in 1944. Truman couldn't do it. Neither could LBJ or Carter, not even Kennedy. God rest his soul. But you did, and you proved that the old ways were alive and well. Furthermore, Democrats have also made large gains in Congress, and in a truly glorious moment, Gingrich himself has been unseated, putting the capstone on Democratic wave and ensuring that at least 2, maybe even 4 more years of agenda being passed. What that agenda will be is entirely up to you, but who can deny that in the 1990s, the nation has seen a large shift back to the left after years of decline under GOP presidents. As FDR himself might have said, happy days are here again. Now that the nation has accepted the NHRA, there's no reason why you can't go one step further and push for single payer. Perhaps you can focus on infrastructure and the technology sector with the new millennium approaching. It's all in your hands, and you've got one hell of a mandate. Does anyone guess who will run to succeed you? Paul Wellstone is giving some strong hints, and Ann will certainly be in the conversation too, but it's too early to tell. The Republicans, with Wells' defeat, it's likely the Conservatives will be ascended once more, but that's all in the future. For now, start preparing your victory and get ready for 4 more years in the White House. There we go. The historic result is 406 to 132. So, you know, we did better than the historic outcome, quote unquote. Let's look at the closest states. Oklahoma, about 8,000 votes. That's not bad. Alaska, about 2,000 votes. Arizona, 13,000. North Dakota, about 3,000, 3,500, let's say. And Colorado with that's about 30K. Not incredibly close, though. Well, you know, I think that's a good place to leave it. That has been 1996 Lion. I hope you all enjoyed. I certainly did. Again, if we get 11 likes on this video, we'll hop in to play one of these other candidates. Probably Buchanan, but if there's enough interest for Weld, we can play him. Or maybe play him after Buchanan, if we get 11 likes on that video. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyhow, shout out again to the mod maker who made this. A lot of fun. Nice, simple mod. What I needed right about now, and it hit the spot quite well. Meanwhile, yeah, I'm going to leave things there. Thanks as always for watching, my friends. If you like, if not, feel free to dislike, leaving comments or feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments again. I do appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leave any comments or feedback. I think I already said that. Hit the sub button, notification bell, keep updated with these uploads as they come out. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there. Thanks as always for watching, my friends. My name has been Mr. Dogabot333. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.